Hej alle sammen. Jeg håber, at I alle sammen kan høre mig og kan se mig. Velkommen til den her virtuelle smagning. Det har jo været en god dag. Vi har lige haft nogle lempelser af de her restriktioner. Det er jo rigtig dejligt, at vi nu kan samles 25 personer og drikke vin sammen, i stedet for at man skal sidde sammen med de 4 sammen, man har kigget så meget på nu her og drukket vin sammen med i, ja, hvad der føles som umenneskelige tider. Det er vi rigtig, rigtig glade for. Vi glæder os selvfølgelig også til restauranterne får lov til at åbne lidt mere op og så videre, for det er vi jo også lidt afhængige af her i Sørensen Vin. Men det her med virtuelle smagninger, det er noget, vi har gjort os en del i her det sidste års tid. Og vi har bare kunne se, at det er noget, der er kommet for at blive. Det er en rigtig dejlig måde at kunne få alle jer til at deltage aktivt i smagninger. Det er en måde, hvor vi kan få vores dejlige producenter til at fortælle de her røverhistorier om vine og geografi osv. osv. Og det gør også, at de kan stille en masse spørgsmål undervejs osv. Så det skal I selvfølgelig være mere end velkomne til. Inden jeg stiller jer ned til Henri-Claude og Jean-Marie ned i Gigondas, nede i det sydlige Rhône, så har jeg lige fået stukket en lille liste med nogle ting, jeg skal huske at sige, som er meget vigtige. 1. I skal alle sammen slukke jeres mikrofon, og I skal slukke for jeres kamera. Og det er altså ikke fordi, at vi ikke gider at høre, hvad I siger, eller gider at se på jer, for det vil vi rigtig gerne. Men optagelsen her, den bliver optaget til senere brug, og der er nogle ting, som ikke fungerer, hvis der er nogen, der har glemt at slå deres kamera osv. fra. Og 2. Herude i siden af skærm, der er der sådan en lille tekstboks, hvis det skulle være første gang, man er på Teams, hvor man kan se, der er en chat. Så skriver jeg lige her i chatten. Så skulle I meget gerne kunne se, at der lige popper sådan en lille ting op. Herude, der kan jeg så stille spørgsmål undervejs. Og så vil jeg så i løbet af smagningen samle lidt sammen til spørgsmål. Det kan være, at jeg selv lige svarer på dem i chatten, eller også så kan det være, at jeg stiller jer ned, eller sender spørgsmålet videre ned til vores venner Jean-Marie og Henri-Claude Amadieu. Så hold jer ikke tilbage med spørgsmål. Der er ingen spørgsmål, der er for små eller for dumme. Det er det gode ved det her format med virtuelle smagninger, at man ikke skal rejse sig blandt 100 mennesker, eller hvad fanden vi er samlet her i dag. Stil spørgsmål. Åbn jeres vine nu. Jer, der har købt smagekassen, hvis ikke I allerede har gjort det. Klokken den er over 16, det vil sige, at jeg må godt drikke vin. Og ikke behøver at spytte ud, det er også dejligt. Så jeg har i hvert fald tænkt mig at smage med, fordi som sagt, vi har gjort det her format en del gange efterhånden med mange forskellige af vores producenter. Vi kommer også til at gøre det i fremtiden med nogle andre producenter. Men lige præcis de her drenge, dem har jeg glædet mig rigtig meget til at holde smagning med. Fordi vi holdt en test her i forgårs, hvor vi lige skulle se nogle til hinanden og teste lyd og så videre. Og jeg kan godt fortælle jer, at de har gjort noget ud af det. De glæder sig rigtig, rigtig meget. Så som sagt, åbn jeres vine. Stil spørgsmål løbende. Jeg samler sammen. Sluk jeres kamera. Sluk jeres mikrofon. Og så ellers så nyd det. Nu vil jeg stille jer ned til det sydlige Rhône, til Gigondas. Jean-Marie and Henri-Claude, do you hear me?
Bonjour Alan. Bonjour Alan. Bonjour Denmark.
Bonjour à tous.
So good to listening to you, so good to see you all up there from Denmark all the way down to us. My name is Henri-Claude Amadieu. I am 3rd generation of Pierre Amadieu family company, still being run and operated by 6 Amadieu family members all together, brother, sister, father, cousins, and so on. Welcome to us. Thank you again for joining. Thank you first to Erik Sorensen Vin, our historic partner in Denmark, who put all of that together, and that make us so proud to be sharing with you all these beautiful wines, passion, and landscapes that we have here in Gigondas. Remaining that it's already 35 years that Eric Sorensen and Pierre Amadieu are working together, I found back yesterday in my files this picture that Bjarne sent me a few years ago. If everybody can see it, it's a picture of a Danish customers loading some cases of Gigondas in our boutique, and the old man in the back walking, it is my great-grandfather Antoine. So I could tell this picture was taken circa 1990, 30 years already. Beautiful memories. Thank you so much for being back to Gigondas to us today. And we are very happy to have this experience, very innovative experience of virtual tasting, as we like to call it with our friends, le tasting. We will be very happy to share with you all this beautiful place of Gigondas and vineyards of Pierre Amadieu, and we can't wait to seeing you coming to us and enjoying it with us on site, in real. By now, this technology is here to help us, to give us a first taste of what's going on here. And as an introduction, I would like to pass the microphone to my brother Jean-Marie, who is already up here in the village. Jean-Marie, c'est à vous.
Bonjour à tous, est-ce que tu m'entends, Henri-Claude?
Oui, ça fonctionne très bien, Jean-Marie, c'est à toi.
Great. Welcome to Gigondas, friends of Denmark. We are here in the small village of Gigondas, 500 people, and almost all of them are vine growers and grow vine. You might see behind me the Rhône Valley, which is down on the valley floor, close to the Rhône River, and we are here on the steep slopes of the Dentelles de Montmirail. Les Dentelles de Montmirail, this range of mountains made of massive rock of limestone on which the vines of Gigondas are cultivated. So we are overlooking the Rhône Valley floor. So we are here a little bit in altitude. The village and all the vines of Gigondas are facing north and west exposition, which is a great factor to cultivate wine. Also, you might see a little bit around us, Gigondas is far from all the roads. So I was telling you, we are here in a very preserved environment. Gigondas is far from all the roads, and you can see behind me all the classic Provence vegetation with the cypresses, the almond trees right now, which are blossoming, and the olive trees, the pine trees, the rosemary, and all the garlic vegetation. And all these vegetations will bring a lot of complexity to the wines then in your glass. So Gigondas was founded during the Roman Empire, so back in the time. And actually the name Gigondas comes from the Latin word Jucundas, which means joy and happiness. People here live here to rest, to have good time. By the time the Romans were getting their retirement, their pension here, and they were coming to enjoy the thermal sources, the water sources coming from the Dentelles of Montmirail, but also they were hunting in the forest, and of course they were cultivating vine, and they were enjoying to drink wine. And right now, I mean, time didn't really change. We are very happy to be here and very, very, very lucky. So you might see on the other side of Gigondas, it's a very typical village of Provence with the roofs of tile and the small streets in the village where we used to play when we were kids with Henri-Claude and my other brother and sister. And maybe on this side, you will get the medieval church and the walls of the old castle from the medieval time of Gigondas. So if we look now to the vineyard, you can see we are overlooking the Rhone Valley floor. So the big flat area with an ocean of vine that you can guess on the back is the Côtes du Rhône appellation. Henri-Claude will tell you a little bit more about the wine afterwards. And if we go a little bit south, you can maybe follow the sun. We go south on the other side of the Dentelle of Montmirail. You will find the Vaqueras appellation, which is way more sun exposed and south exposed. So the vines are usually more powerful and more hot. And if you go a little bit further south, you will find a little hill with pebble stones, the famous Galets Roulés, and this is the prestigious and famous appellation Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Well, you will discover all this appellation with Henri-Claude. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the wine, Henri?
Oui, Jean-Marie, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Jean-Marie, for this beautiful landscape and pictures, live pictures that you could share with us from the top of the village of Gigondas. It is just a perfect day today to have this sort of visit. And I'm convinced all of our guests today will appreciate this little tour through the streets. I will let you go back to the car that we name Le Car, especially today to take us on a little tour through the roads of Gigondas. And from now, I invite all my guests from Denmark to follow me on a tour for a little education of the Rhone Valley. So please sit back, fasten your seat belts. We're gonna take a flight, probably the fastest flight you have ever done from Copenhagen. Right now, you can see that we are in Le Castellet, up, 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 up. And from Le Castellet in Copenhagen, we will fly very quickly. Oh la la. Le car is starting. We will fly very quickly above the north of Europe. Voila, from Copenhagen, we are leaving, passing above Benelux, and we are approaching Belgium border with France. Here we are, just over France. You can probably already distinguish Paris here, just above my mouse. This is Paris. We go a bit south of Paris, and we are here towards east. You can see all this snow to the east. This is the Alps mountain chain. So over Switzerland and then Italy, still going south of France, and here we are starting to see the Rhone Valley. This city here is Lyon, the start of the valley, and all the way down from Lyon to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, we will be today in the Rhone Valley. The Rhone Valley, in terms of vineyard, it is pretty simple. It is organized into two different sections. The north part of the valley on top, where we cultivate a lot of Syrah. So the southern part of the valley, and it's around us, the southern part of the valley, we cultivate the Grenache grape, which is our masterpiece. And in this part, you will find all these famous appellations like Gigondas or Châteauneuf-du-Pape, for example. Eventually, the classification of the appellations of the Rhone Valley, it is pretty simple here, as we like to classify it as a short pyramid. At the base of the pyramid, you have the Côtes du Rhône wines in general, and then you step up to two sections, the Côtes du Rhône village and Côtes du Rhône village commune, which are 21 places where you have more specificities or quality or location with a knowledge or know-how a bit more ancient. Eventually, when we reach the top of the pyramid, we are here entering the cru section, and the cru will be Gigondas, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, like we will be tasting today. So back to the room here, the tasting room. I invite you, better than big theories and lessons, we go straight to the wine, we go and taste, and definitely the wine will talk way better than me about, voila, it's here, what's going on with Côtes du Rhône wines. I introduce you and I invite you to take your first bottle, which is Côtes du Rhône Roulepierre. This Côtes du Rhône Roulepierre, I pour myself a nice glass. Voila. This is definitely the best introduction to the Rhone style wines. First, in terms of fruit, it is made of a blend of Grenache and Syrah. So when I smell it, I have these. And so to you people, if you can hear me, you should hear the skull. So Côtes du Rhône Roulepierre is definitely the best introduction of a Côtes du Rhône. And with this Côtes du Rhône, I will definitely recommend that you make this wine your best friend. I mean, it is your everyday wine. It is an easygoing, very fruity wine, very enjoyable, easy to understand, easy to get instant pleasure with, and that's your lunchtime wine. This is your back from work at night aperitif wine. It is something you enjoy with small bites, small, I don't know, charcuterie, for example. Today, I had this idea to come with my saucisson.
Henri-Claude, we lost your sound again.
Là, voilà. Is it okay now?
I could see some French swear words, even though
Yes.
without the sound.
Merde.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Bon.
There we go.
So, after work, what I like to do is take a saucisson, cut a couple of slices, and enjoy my saucisson with my Côtes du Rhône Roulepierre. You see? Help yourself, friends. That's for you. Voilà. So, Côtes du Rhône Roulepierre, that's your best friend. And this is one of the first wines that Pierre Amadieu actually made as a young guy. We need to go back to 1929, 90 years ago, when Pierre Amadieu, young kid of 19 years old only, decided to get started with wine business here in Gigondas. And with the first Côtes du Rhône wine, blending the Syrah and Grenache, he slowly started his business, and quicker until the Second World War, when he decided to expand widely. So he builds here, next to me, the winery itself, the production facility, which has a huge capacity. We could produce something like 1.5 million bottles here in this facility. So enormous compared to the small vineyard he started with. Second, after the war, he decides to expand the vineyards, and he purchases a very, very large piece of property up in the mountain, completely lost and remote, where it's not planted yet. It is simply an abandoned property of olive trees, of oak trees, a bit of cereals and cattle. So I think now it's time for us to taste a second wine that Pierre Amadieu created after Gigondas. It is Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Châteauneuf-du-Pape, that's definitely the most famous appellation in this area. It is here. Let me show you the bottle, and you could get ready with your second glass. Châteauneuf-du-Pape, La Paillousse. You have to remember, thinking of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, we are next to the Rhône River. We are on the banks of the Rhône River, and you have these vineyards with a lot of pebble stones, of rolled and round stones. These pebble stones will make the specificity of Châteauneuf-du-Pape vine and grapes. During the day, they will capture all the heat of the sun on the vines, and during the night, they will give back all this heat to the grapes and to the vine. The result is some very, very concentrated grapes, some very powerful grapes, and it's mostly Grenache there. I invite you to go and taste this Châteauneuf-du-Pape glass. First, the smell is a bit more wild, gamey nose that we have from this concentrated Grenache. Then the mouth, we have this very big structure, very concentrated juice and fruit, and it has a powerful finish. It lasts a lot. It's a very, very long finish in your mouth, developing again and again. It is definitely a solid wine. It is a wine I like to appreciate when I celebrate. For example, my best friend from Paris came visit us for a few days, and yesterday night, just to celebrate, say, hi, welcome to the Rhone, let's get introduced with a Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It's just a delight. It's something you would like to open for your lunch on Sunday, family gathering, for example. It is also something I would like to pair with some serious cheese. When I say serious cheese, I'm talking about camembert, for example. Allez, let's get for a slice of camembert, a bit of baguette. Voilà. Super. And the power of the camembert paired with this serious and long finish of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, this is definitely my little scene, let's say. Voilà. Life is good in the Rhone. I can't wait to see you and share it with you. It takes me to the second part of the history of the family, when the second generation comes and joins Pierre Amadieu. I'm talking about my uncle Jean-Pierre and my father and mother, Claude and Muriel. All of them took over first on the production side, winemaking, and second, my father, on the viticulture aspect, on the vineyard. And together with my grandfather, they expanded to a very, very large piece of property, which is now 140 hectares planted. It's also the time when they develop and expand a lot to export and foreign countries, all over Europe, all over Americas. It's also the time they expand on very big accounts like airplane companies. For instance, Air Africa would have some Pierre Amadieu wines all over the flights. Or else, most prestigious cruise ship, Le France would have Pierre Amadieu Gigondas on the list for the people enjoying this cruise over the Atlantic Ocean. I can see here on the side that we already have some comments and questions. Maybe Alan, you could put a few of them together and give them back to us so we can respond.
Hello again, Victor. Yes, you are absolutely correct. There are some questions, but it's mainly actually about prices on the wines, which is pretty good. So I think I will let people write questions for the rest of the tasting, and then we can maybe have the Q&A in half an hour or something like that.
No problem, Alan. No problem. We can continue on gathering questions and comments. And I can see here that Jean-Marie and the technical team on the field is already on site and ready for action. So I will pass the mic to them. Jean-Marie, c'est à vous.
Okay, yes, we are back. Welcome to the vineyard. Welcome to Pierre Amadieu Vineyard. So it's very quiet today, very sunny. We would rest and take a nap all the afternoon here. You can see behind me the landscape, the beautiful dentelle of Montmirail in the back. You can see the limestone rocks and all the slopes, the steep slopes we were talking earlier, where all the vines are planted. We are very lucky to have this vineyard here. Henri was telling us a little bit that our grandfather purchased this big land in the 50s, where he planted all these vines. Sorry, just a second. Voila, back to the camera. And so he planted the vineyard all around us. Again, as I was telling earlier, the vineyard is surrounded by forests. You can see these oak trees and pine trees and olive trees a little bit everywhere that surround the vineyard. It's very important because it brings a lot of freshness to the vineyard, but also biodiversity to balance all the diseases we can have on the vines. So it's very useful to fight against the mildew and all the problems that we can have during spring. So we have here in front of us an old vine of Grenache. Grenache, Henri was telling us, is the main grape and the main variety of the Rhône Valley. And this vine was planted by my grandfather 65 years ago. 65, same age, it's the anniversary of Eric Sorensenville. So this is a great homage to our friends and partners from Denmark. Vine makes a very good juice, very concentrated juice. So what is the characteristic and the specificity of the terroir of Gigondas? I was telling a little bit earlier, we are here in altitude, okay? We are almost at 500 meters of elevation, when the Rhone Valley floor is in between 50 and 100 meters of elevation. So the climate is, we have a microclimate, and the climate is cooler here. The soil, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, is made of limestone, okay? The limestone from the erosion of the dentelle of Montmirail, and also of clay. And this clay, like a sponge, it keeps the water, and during summer, it gives it back to the vine. It refreshes the vine and it gives back the water to the vine. So this is a very important component of freshness in the vineyard. And the last thing is the exposure of the vineyard. Most of the vineyard that you can see behind us, maybe you can guess it in the back, the vineyard is planted on very steep slopes. So the soil is very draining and the vine produces very concentrated grapes. There is not too much juice, and so it concentrates the aromas, the tannins, the structure, and everything we want to get in our glass for aperitif. And these coteaux, these slopes, are exposed west and north. And so we get the sun during the summer a little bit later in the morning, and the vineyard is more cool and fresh. So all these factors combined permits to make very fresh and cooler grapes, and the wines are very different than the other one that you can find in the Côtes-du-Rhône appellation, for example. So right now in the vineyard, it's end of winter time. As you can see, we just finished pruning the vines. We cut all the shoots of the year, and now the vines are resting and making some reserves in the soils, in the roots, for next year, for the next cycle. But a little bit earlier, we harvested the grape in September. All the work here is done by hand. It's very important and very long also, because we can't use any machine on the steep slopes. We have to do it by hand, and harvest is done by hand. It's very important because we sort the grapes in the vineyard. So we pick only the best grapes, and we put all these grapes in big boxes that we bring back to the cellar. We crush the grapes and we destem. We remove the stem of the grape, and then we put the juice and the skin in the tanks. And in these tanks, we will do the maceration and fermentation. Fermentation is the process which converts the sugar into alcohol. This process is made by the yeast, and in the same time, we do the maceration. Can you hear me? Just to make sure that I'm not talking in the wind.
Oui, oui, Jean-Marie, it's parfait. C'est parfait,
Perfect.
merci.
Perfect. So then the maceration allows the juice to macerate with the skins, and we extract all the tannins, all the aromas, all the structure we want to get from the skins from the skins of the grapes. And this maceration and fermentation will last from 4 to 5 weeks. And then it's time to aging. So we will see that in the cellar a little bit later. Voila, what could I say more about the specificity? Maybe about the grape. Henri, you told us a little bit earlier. So the main grape, and the main grape that we have represented here, is the Grenache in Gigondas. So the Grenache will bring the aromas of garrigue and spices, and in the mouth it will bring the power and the power and the mouthfeel. Then we do have the Syrah. The Syrah is very interesting because it brings the aromas of flower and fruits. It's very fruity, and in the mouth it brings the roundness. It's very very aesthetic. And then the last grape is the Mourvèdre for the red. Huh? The last grape is the Mourvèdre. The Mourvèdre will bring the chocolate, coffee, spices, pepper, aromas. And in the mouth, it will bring the structure and the tannins. It makes the angles of the wine. So the three are very, how can I say that? They all go together. Interesting to get the blend of the three varieties. And usually we blend the grapes when we harvest, and we co-ferment. We do the maceration all together to take a little bit of all the varieties. Voilà, I think what we can say of the vineyard is said. Henri-Claude, have any question, or maybe we can talk a little bit about the wines from Gigondas?
Oui, oui, Jean-Marie, oui, oui, oui. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for this beautiful vineyard explanations and views behind you. Thank you again to Marc for having the camera in hand, and beautiful, beautiful scenery. You know it. Jean-Marie, by the time maybe you drive a bit, we have a mic problem somewhere. Okay, is everybody has muted? Thank you so much for muting. So by the time, Jean-Marie, you walk a bit along the vineyard, you have probably 5 good minutes to go down to the next destination. And my friends, I will be very, very happy to share with you the essence of what Jean-Marie described to you, the essence of our passion, of our hard work year long. I mean, now you are open heart, you are, I think, ready to receive the real deal. I mean, Gigondas. And so I really encourage you to take with you the last bottle of the tasting today, Gigondas Pierre Amadieu, Romane Machotte. This is it. And we will taste it. We will go discover all the essence of this wine. Alors, to get started with a Gigondas, you have first to keep in mind what is a Gigondas wine. A Gigondas wine, it is three things. First, it is a wine based on Grenache. Second, this Grenache is grown on mountain vineyards, so altitude is important. And eventually, these vineyards on the mountains are facing the north face. And so, Grenache, altitude, and north face will be the definition of a Gigondas wine. This wine, Romane Machotte, it is probably the best example of what's a Gigondas, how to taste it, how to enjoy it. Please pour yourself a glass. Skål. Oh, now I know where I am. Can you smell this garrigue scents? Garrigue, it is this vegetation, typical vegetation here in Gigondas, in Provence in general, composed by these herbs, rosemary, thyme, laurus, pine trees all around. You have all these Mediterranean scents and vegetation together in this glass. Now I'm here in Gigondas. Second, you taste it. Can you feel? It's a very first touch on your tongue, very soft, very delicate. The tannins are well present, but yet very round, very silky, very enjoyable. In the middle of your tasting, in your mouth, you have this fruit, dark fruit. It's very blackberries, raspberries also, blackberry, raspberry. That is definitely what I would use to qualify the fruit of Gigondas. And then you have the finish in your mouth. It is very, very refreshing, very persistent in mouth. You are back to this menthol, eucalyptus, pepper notes, very peppery. Huh? It's, how to say, black crushed pepper, crushed black pepper, very refreshing notes that balances the power of the wine. This is definitely beautiful, very enjoyable, yet very approachable wine. This is Gigondas Romane Machotte, a wine I would enjoy almost every day on a dinner with some nice roasted meat, for example. We are approaching Easter, for instance, and Easter time, you have the traditional lamb that you would really like to pair with this wine. I would highly recommend to do so. If you had the chance, if you are the lucky one to get some very local specialties that we have here, I took a tiny bit of them with me today, just to share with you. Look, where are they? Sneaky, sneaky. Ah, les voilà. Can you see them? Can you see them? This is our local specialty, our little local luxury. We call them the melanosporum, the black truffle with the white stripes in them. It is a cousin. It is a cousin of the most famous Alba truffle back in Piemonte, Italy. But here, our local melanosporum, we like to enjoy it in a few slices. I will show you how to proceed. So you cut a few slices of it like this. Voila. Decent size. Voila. Thick enough to have some really something in mouth. Then you prepare a few toasts like this out of a baguette. You put your truffle slice on them, and eventually you would like to take the local production of olive oil. Olive oil, you could see behind Jean-Marie the olive trees. So we produce some olive oil as well. Up a tiny bit of olive oil on it. Voila. Voila. Et voila. And eventually, I would take from the Mediterranean some sea salt, a hint of sea salt on my truffles. Voila. And we are ready to appreciate a very good local pairing of black truffle, Gigondas Romane Machotte, which has the particularity among the years to age turning with truffle scents and aromas. So let me get this small one. Please help yourself. Have a slice with me. Voila. Get your slice. Enjoy. Super. This is super. So, a toast of truffle, a glass of Gigondas. Now that's definitely life. There is only one question I have. How do we make such a delicious wine? How long would it take to make such a beautiful Gigondas Romane Machotte like this? And the answer is very simple. To make such a delicious wine, you need only two things. It is a lot of care and a lot of patience. You need patience. And Jean-Marie now is located backstage, and I think he could share with us a little bit of secrets on how do we produce this wine, do we age this wine. Jean-Marie, can you hear us? Could you please help us visiting, voilà, the cellar of La Machotte? Jean-Marie, I pass you the mic, c'est à vous.
Voilà Henri-Claude, bienvenue. Can you hear me?
Oui, ça marche très bien, c'est impeccable.
We are in La Machotte cellar, and you might note that to age wine, we want a very cool, fresh, and wet and humid conditions, like in your cellar when you age the bottles then. And so the walls are very thick, and so the service and the network doesn't work. But it's good because we like to be here, quiet, without any noise, without any service, nothing, just myself and the barrels and the wine. And we are here just to taste, to blend, to think, and voila. So right now I was actually tasting the white from the vintage 20. And it's very interesting. Still this climate of Gigondas, very cool. For the culture of the white, the Grand Romane Blanc Côtes du Rhône made from claret. The white is very fresh, very citrus, very floral, and there is a lot of tension. It's a great wine that we make in, you might see, these big barrels. They make, it's not the classic Bordeaux barrel, it's a bigger barrel, which is 500 liters. And it's very interesting because it's not too oaky, but it brings a lot of mouthfeel and roundness to the wine. So you might, at some point, here in Gigondas or in Denmark, taste this wine. But we are here in La Machotte, so you might see behind us this big foudre of the Domaine Grand Romane. A foudre is like a barrel but bigger. It's an oak cask. It can be, well, here this one is 5,000 liters. So it's more or less 7,000 bottles. So we can use this big foudre to age the Grenache, and we use also the small Bordeaux classic barrels like this one to age the Syrah or the Mourvèdre that we did a little bit earlier. And so the wines stay here in the cellar for 18 until 24 months, more or less. So almost 2 years for some vintages or some wine. If the wine is very structured, very tannic, like a hot vintage, like 2019, for example, we will keep the wine longer in the barrels. And the oak of the barrel will work with the wine, and the tannins will combine. And so we try to do a first aging before the wine start to age in the bottle. There is also another advantage to age the wine into the oak, into the wood. It's the micro oxygenation. The oxygen will go very slightly through the barrel, and we try to reproduce then the transfer of oxygen that you will have through your cork in the bottle. So again, like the refining, like the maturation of the tanning, we try to do a micro oxygenation on the aromas just to prepare the wine then to be aged 5, 10, 15, or until 20 years in the bottle in your cellar. Voila. So right now, as you can see, I'm doing my work of winemaker. So with this little pipette, I put some wine in my glass. So this is a Grenache from 2019. So it will stay 6 or 8 months more in the barrels. Wow, it's mocha, it's coffee, it's very garrigue, red fruit, and the balance is coming. But still, the tannin is working. We can feel that. It needs a little bit more time in the barrel, but it's very promising. And so at the end, we use this éprouvette, and we put a little bit of all the tank we have in the cellar, and we do the blending, and all the family gather. So my cousin, my brother, my father, my sister, everybody, we all stay around the same table, and we try the final blend to decide if the wine is ready to be bottled or not. At this point, we will rack all the barrels into a big tank. We leave the wine for a decantation, and then without any filtration, we will put the wine into the bottle. Et voilà. Then put the wine in a truck and go straight to Denmark. Skål min ven.
Skål min ven. Merci Jean-Marie, merci. That was fantastic to be backstage with you, to see this wine flipping. Maybe you should just move a bit to your right and show us the alignment of barrels and foudre. Voilà, it's a name.
Oui.
Eh oui, so, eh oui, voilà.
This was the small part of the cellar, and maybe if we do have enough service, we have 2 stages of barrels that we have to taste one by one to make sure the quality is here. So you can see behind me all these barrels and food. This is a very quiet place. We will a little bit. We go a little bit back.
Voilà. It's better right now here. Even of course. As soon as you get deep into the cellar and the thick walls, we lose the coverage. But you can just imagine behind Jean-Marie, it's dozens and dozens and dozens of meters of food and barrels aligned on 2 levels. It's just an endless corridor of wine, still wine, sleeping wine, very quietly. And thank you so much, Jean-Marie, for this visit backstage. I think we could ask maybe Alan now to deliver us a few Q&A from our friends today. If you could, Jean-Marie, go back to the front door. We make sure we have the coverage. And Alan, please, we are waiting for your comments and questions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. Yes, we do have a couple of questions, actually, and it's some good ones. We have a question here, Henri-Claude. Is there a reason why we taste the Châteauneuf-du-Pape before the Romane Machotte?
Thank you, Alan, for this question. Very, very interesting one. It's actually, it took me probably 2 days of thinking before choosing this way of tasting. Usually, we taste the wine from the more simple one or cheaper one to the more expensive or the more powerful and probably notorious one. That's what we do usually. And today I decided that we will do as usually. Gigondas, of course, is the best of the best. So we had to finish with Gigondas. No, the explanation is more simple. I just wanted to highlight Gigondas, which is our place, which is our heart, which is where we live, and which is the place today we will take your hand and visit all these vineyards and cellars. So it was very important to us to finish our tasting on the Gigondas, but basically back home on a dinner or on any occasion, it would be probably the same, how to say, the same tasting Châteauneuf first or Gigondas first. I would put them on the same level in terms of typicity, in terms of quality, of notoriety too. Thank you.
Beautiful. And like you told us, Henri-Claude, you said that the Grenache is the backbone of the Southern Rhone. Do you ever see a pure Grenache with 100% Grenache in the Southern Rhone? We have a question.
Alors oui, that's a beautiful and interesting question that we have about the Grenache, our masterpiece. We have a tradition of blending. We like to blend. We like to marry our king, the Grenache, with the queen, the Syrah. That's the way we do usually. Of course, we have some few rules that would make us always blend, but some experiences, some experiments that we do in our estates makes us bringing some 100% Grenache together or close to 100. The best example at Pierre Amadieu, for instance, will be our high-end cuvée. We call it Gigondas Le Pas de l'Aigle. And Le Pas de l'Aigle, it is 95% of Grenache. It is to us the best expression of a Grenache of Gigondas. This is the purpose of this wine, to show the best of the best Grenache of Gigondas. Voilà.
Beautiful. I have one last question for you, Henri-Claude. How many hectares of vineyards do you own at Pierre Amadieu?
Jean-Marie was in the vineyard a few minutes ago, so I will pass him the mic just to have a bit of interaction. And Jean-Marie, please, knowing that today is a special day at Pierre Amadieu on top of Pastifillage, can you tell us about the acreage, the hectares of Pierre Amadieu in Gigondas, please?
Yes, Henri-Claude. So we are cultivating here in Gigondas 140 hectares. So Pierre Amadieu is the largest property in Gigondas. It cultivates almost 12% of the total superficie of the Gigondas appellation. So 140 hectares will be more or less 280 acres. Yes, something like that. And today we were planting actually at the top of the vineyard 15 hectares of Syrah grapes. So at the most highest part of the vineyard at 500 meters of elevation. And so we are replanting 15 hectares. So yeah, we are talking of big superficies here. And we are also cultivating vines in Kéran appellation, so on the other side of the Côtes-du-Rhône appellation, and we are exploiting more or less 20 hectares. Voilà.
Merci Jean-Marie. Alan?
Do we have time for one last question?
Oui, of course. You are most welcome.
You told us a bit about blending the grapes. And we have a question here. Is it always the same percentage when you blend the wines, and or what do you take into account when blending?
So yeah, I might answer this question. We try to keep the same blend every year with the same percentage of each grapes. It's not always easy because the grapes react differently depending on the vintage, but we try to keep the same percentage to keep the same spirit on the cuvée. And then, which is very important, is to have a variation depending on the vintage and not on the blend. So we try, when you drink a Gigondas Romane Machotte, to have always the same blend, so you can afterwards compare each vintage on the same basis. What we can do, depending on the vintage, is to change the way of aging. I mean, if we have a fruity and lighter year, with maybe more fruity, spicy, floral wines, we will use concrete tanks or stainless steel tanks to preserve the fruit. If we have a hot and dry year, like 2019, with a lot of tannins, a lot of structure, as I was telling a little bit earlier, we will use barrels or demi-muid to have a reaction of the oak with the wine. So we try to play maybe more on the aging than on the blend of the grapes. I don't know if I'm clear enough.
You are, Jean-Marie. Beautiful.
Alan, I think following up on Jean-Marie's answer, I've seen passing through a few questions, and I don't know if we will have time to answer all of them, but one interesting one was about the tasting the smagning case of 6 wines. Will we be able to taste all of the 6 today? And I think the answer, unfortunately for today, is not 6 of them, but just 3 of them. We wanted to highlight the 3 wines. Regarding the 3 other wines you have in your smagning case, it is very easy. We mentioned you have some Vaqueras. Vaqueras, it is located south of the Dentelle de Montmirail mountains, next to us. It is a very rounded, red fruit, easygoing cru of the Rhône Valley. Then you have 2 wines from the same Domaine Grand Romane, white and red. And this is the core, the heart of our vineyard. The white Côtes-du-Rhône Domaine Grand Romane, it is the wine Jean-Marie tasted out of the barrel just a few minutes ago. It is a 100% claret wine. It's a very, very, very nice, well-balanced, crisp, dense, and rich wine out of our terroir of mountain terroir of Gigondas. I really encourage you to appreciate it as an aperitif or on some nice cod in sauce. Second is Gigondas Domaine Grand Romane. and that's one of our high-end cuvées, blending all together all the classic grapes of our vineyard, Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, all three of them. So that's a very rich, very aromatic, a very floral wine. It is a wine I would love with a grilled Côtes de Bœuf. I don't know in Danish. I think Max here with us today will be better than me as a top chef. But yes, on a nice piece of beef grilled, Gigondas Domaine Grand Romane would be your favorite. That's about the three wines. Another question, this is just a small short story behind the car, le car Jean-Marie is driving now. It is a Renault 4, a Renault 4, a 4L. And la 4L, what is the story behind the 4L? It is my car. It's a car I purchased in memory of my great-grandfather, Antoine. This one you saw just at the beginning of the show, here in the back, next to the wall. And Antoine was driving us in a 4L. We were maybe 4 to 6 years old, and it was always smelling the gasoline inside. Just beautiful memory and beautiful nostalgia from these times. You can see Jean-Marie and the nostalgia almost touching the top of the car. He is actually next to Marthe. I would like all of you to clap silently, but to clap the technical team. And we have Jean-Marie and Marthe behind the camera. She was shooting all day long, and it's already many hours of experience of what's the name? Experiments that we made us to do with us to make sure we have the best experience today, despite the hectic coverage and connection today. Alan, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. I let you deliver to our friends all the best of the offer you can have at Erik Sorensen for Pierre Amadieu wines to Denmark. And as a last goodbye to do, I promised my wife this morning, leaving the house, that I would say a hi and hey to everybody in Denmark on her behalf. She loves Denmark. I love Denmark. We love you, Denmark. And Jean-Marie, please join me. Take your glass in the car if you have a chance. Okay, Jean-Marie cannot hear me. Yes, take your virtual glass. And I would say, call me then.
Call my friends.
Thank you so much, guys. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you all.
Take care. Merci.
And a happy anniversary to Erik Sorensen Vin.
Thank you so much.